I never know how to start these podcasts. I literally just spent the last like 5 minutes doing hello, hi guys, oh my god, hi. And I'm just like, how the hell do people start podcasts? But I guess welcome back to episode 2 of my podcast. If you listened last week, thank you so much. It was my first episode. I'm still learning. I'm growing. Okay, it's just the beginning. Okay, but today's episode is going to be fun because I want to talk about what it's like working in retail. Like, for those of you who don't know this about me, I worked in retail for like 6 years of my life. Anybody that's worked in retail knows the struggle, especially clothing stores. I feel like a lot of times when you go online, people always whine about like what it's like working in restaurants. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it's like working in a restaurant, but I know what it's like working in retail. Okay, clothing stores. I worked at H&M and I have the craziest stories from that period of my life. I was there from like 2018 is when I started working at H&M. I remember it was March 21st, I think, when I got the job. It was a few days before my birthday and I was working there until August 31st, 2023. So yeah, that was a big chunk of my life. I remember when I first started working at H&M, I was so excited. Okay, I was so naive. In my head, I was thinking, oh my God, this is like my dream job. At the time, it was my dream job. Because for some reason, I just always like romanticized clothing stores, working in retail. I grew up watching Gossip Girl and fashion movies and fashion TV shows. So in my mind, my delusional mind, I thought that working in retail was going to be like that and it was going to propel me into this career where I was going to be a fashion icon. It was not that. It was horrible. For those of you who don't know this about me, I was born in Norway. I live in Norway right now. But when I was like 7 years old, my family moved to Kenya. So I grew up in Kenya. I lived like, I think 11 years in Kenya. So when I moved back, I remember I moved back on my 18th birthday and I didn't speak Norwegian. I had to like relearn everything. It was horrible. It was hard for me to get a job because at that time I didn't speak Norwegian. I was only speaking English, right? And everybody in this country just speaks Norwegian. So I was looking for jobs. But I just never got a job, right? Then a few years go by and I go to university, right? But I moved to a different city. Moving to that city haunts me to this day. It was a city called Trondheim and it's in Norway, right? I'm from the capital city, which is Oslo, right? My friends live in Oslo. When I moved back to Norway, I moved back to Oslo. Even though when I was younger, we lived in like a small town. But when I moved back, we lived in the capital city. Okay, this is where everybody's at. My family, my friends, I went to school here. Me and my friends decided that we're going to apply for university together. We told ourselves, okay, we're going to apply together. We're all going to get accepted and we're going to move together to this city, right? I'm never going to forget the day we were getting our exam results. We were FaceTiming each other, all three of us. We were waiting for the results. Everybody passed. No, not everybody passed. I passed, but they didn't pass and they didn't get into the university. To this day, I remember the feeling that I had. I was like, what do you mean I'm going to move by myself? At the beginning, I was questioning. I'm like, okay, should I go? Should I not go? I didn't know anybody in the city. It was just me by myself in a different city where I could barely speak Norwegian, right? But I was like, okay, you know what? It's not that bad. Like I was going to be studying English language and literature. I was like, okay, I'm going to make some friends. I moved to the city, right? Everybody's white. Every single person in my class was white. I'm never going to forget the day I walked into the auditorium and I walked in and I just see blonde hair and blue eyes. And I'm like, where are the black people? Forget even the black people. Where are the Asians? Where are the mixed race people? Where's everybody? There was nobody. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck here for 3 years with these people. I had such a hard time making friends because everybody was just drinking alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, right? I'm Muslim, I'm a hijabi. It's one thing to move to a city where everybody's white, but it's another thing to move to a city, everybody is drinking, you don't fit into the culture, the humor's different. And then I would go on Snapchat and I would see my friends having fun. It haunts me, guys, to this day. Like, I was so depressed. I was like, oh my God, I want to move back. I got FOMO. Every time I would go on Instagram stories, Snapchat, I'm seeing my friends together and I'm stuck in this town where I had no friends. I was depressed and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a job, right? So I start going around applying for jobs. Every single job was rejecting me. Randomly one day I took the bus to like the last stop. There was like this shopping center in Trondheim, which is like far away from where I lived. It was like on the other side of the city. Take my CV and I speak to this lady and I'm like, I'm looking for a job. Can you please give me a job? She was like, oh my God, totally. I'm going to give it to the boss tomorrow. I was like, thank you. Literally the next day I get a call from like the department manager and I was like, what? She was like, yeah, Sadia, we saw you applied to H&M. Do you want to come for an interview? I was like, yeah. At that time, I was applying for every job you can think of. Every single job rejected me. Like, I swear to God, even the shitty jobs. At that point, I'm like, there's no way a grocery store is rejecting me. Like, there's no way you guys have better people than me. So I get the job. I go to the interview the next day and I get the job. She literally was like, oh my God, we love you. Like, we just need your references. I was like, thank you. So I start working there, right? The beginning, everything's fine. I'm like, whatever, it's vibes. Like that 1.5 years that I was there, I was working at that job. It was going great, right? About a year in, I gave up on that city. I was like, I'm done. Like, this is fucking depressing. Everybody is like, it was just so depressing to be there. I was like, I don't like this. I made some friends at that point. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I had a few friends. Like, I was kind of vibing. I liked my routine, but I was still missing the big city, aka Oslo, which is so funny looking back, because it's like, but it is the big city. If you compare it to other cities in Norway, like, Oslo is the New York of Norway. I know, sounds crazy. I told my boss I wanted to move back, and she was like, don't worry, we're gonna help you. Like, H&M, it's like a family. Like, once you're in, you're gonna get a job. I was like, cool, right? So I moved back to Oslo and I get a full-time job, because at that point I was only working as like a part-time worker, but this time I got a full 100% job title. That's the thing people don't tell you. Like, when you work at a job and you're like a part-time worker, it's fun. The moment you start working full-time, you hate the job. I remember we had to start work at 7 a.m. every day. Horrible, right? But then at that point in my life, for some reason, I was obsessed with doing makeup. Like, I was like, in my head, I was like, I have to look nice every day. I'm like, I have to look presentable. I don't know why, but I used to wake up at like 5 a.m. Guys, I'm not kidding. 5 a.m. every single day and do a full face of makeup, right? This is like 2019, to go to work at H&M. Every single day. No time for breakfast, none of that. It was just doing my makeup, which is funny looking back, because that makeup looked horrible. Oh my God. I remember I used to spend so much time doing that makeup, but looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? I looked hideous. I looked like a fucking monster, right? I remember like the first year working at that job, it was so bad, because for some reason we were always understaffed. Like, I remember like there was this girl that I worked with, I think her name was Yusufi, and like, if she sees this, she will know. Like, me and her went through the trenches of H&M together. We were always understaffed. We were always on the sales floor by ourselves. We had to like be at the cash register, be on the sales floor, be in the changing rooms. Like, we had all of that on our floor. Like, we worked in the main floor. We had the cosmetics. It was horrible. I'm getting PTSD just thinking about it. And for some reason, people were always gone, right? And the boss would come the next day and be like, you guys did such an amazing job. And we'd be like, are you gonna get more people? She'd be like, yeah, we're gonna get more people. They never came. Nobody came. Then I remember when COVID came, right? COVID randomly came out of nowhere. And I remember at the beginning, everybody was like, yeah, like, this is nothing. Like, it's not going to last, right? There was no customers. Nobody was coming into the store. When COVID hit, like, towards the ending of March and April and May, I was not working for those 3 months, but I was getting paid, right? And I remember like that, to me, I'm never going to forget. Oh my God, COVID, you guys, I know so many people died during COVID. I know. It's really sad, but I had the best time during COVID. I was thriving, being on TikTok during lockdown, being home, getting paid. I spent more time with my friends back then, even though we never saw each other during COVID, than I do now. I can't believe it's been 5 years since COVID. I will never forget the way COVID was one of the greatest times of my life. Anyways, I don't want to get into that right now. Like, I'm just like jumping from one topic to another. Like, I'm the kind of person, like, if I'm talking, I'm just gonna go off a tangent. That's why I have my laptop here, and we have a schedule today. Okay, we're gonna talk about H&M, and then we're gonna talk about crazy customer stories. I have some crazy ones coming up. Then, yeah, that's it actually. That's it. Anyway, so then I start working after COVID starts, like I think like May. Sadly, they were like, we're going to bring back the competent workers. And I was one of them, right? I think that's what they started doing. Like, they had to bring back people, but like they couldn't bring everybody back, because it was like summer 2020 was coming up, and summertime, even though like there was still like COVID restrictions, they were starting to lift the restrictions, right? But then they were like, we need to bring back people little by little. So like, first it was like the head ups, right? Then it was like the people who've been there the longest. Then it was like the full-time workers who were like the ones who do the job the best. I think that was like the idea, which was me, because I was slaving away. This is why you should never, ever, ever, ever be a competent worker. If you take any advice from me in this lifetime, right? If there's one thing I want to be remembered for when I die, always be lazy at your job. Never, ever, ever be a hardworking person at your job. You will get punished for it. You will only get more work. You will suffer. Okay, no extra money, you're gonna die. Please don't do it. If there's a 19-year-old out there, a 20-year-old, listen to me right now. Be lazy, okay? Work hard on your own goals and aspirations. Obviously, do the job, right? Like, don't be like the horrible coworker who doesn't get anything done. Obviously, like, do the job, right? But never go above and beyond. Never, ever, ever go above and beyond, okay? I did that. And you know what I got? More work. back pain, knee issues now, just because I was like, oh, I'm gonna work. Idiots. I was fucking stupid. Anyways, so then they brought me back and I was like, fuck, now it's like summertime, it's hot, and I was like working and it was just depressing, but it was still fun. Then like a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, now mind you, every single year I'm telling myself I'm gonna quit. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, right? This is not even counting the years that I was in the other city. 2023, I finally quit. Before I get into the story of how I quit, let me tell you guys some of the craziest moments I've had with customers. Working in retail will make you lose hope in humanity. It will make you start rooting for AI. Like, I sometimes think like maybe the robots should take over, right? The way people act so incompetent when they walk into clothing stores, I'm traumatized when I think about it. For some reason, like, I don't know why, like, people just lose common sense. Like, they just become like robots, like just stupid little dumb robots that think that you're like their slave and you're just gonna pick up after them. And these are grown people. I feel like sometimes the kids have more common sense when it comes to like retail compared to like the parents. Like, they will walk into a store and they will see like a bunch of sweaters folded up nicely, right? Like pants, sweaters. Instead of picking it up one by one and finding their size, no. In their minds, right? In their stupid little minds, right? Instead of finding their size, they will literally just start throwing everything. Why? Why can't you just lift it up, look for their size, and put it? It takes seconds. Anyways, I don't want to get into this right now because if I start, I'm not going to stop. Anybody that knows me knows how deeply passionate I am about this. I remember every time I would see a customer throwing something on the floor, I'd be like, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I would have to hold myself back because I'm like, I want to jump them. What? Oh my God. Don't even get me started on the changing rooms. The changing rooms, one time we found somebody took a shit in the changing rooms. Somebody just decided to poop in there for some reason, right? Another time there was a guy that was like masturbating in the changing rooms. I'm not kidding, guys. Like, literally there was a guy. This is so fucking crazy. Wait, let me tell you guys a story, right? This is so wild. I remember, okay, this is like 2022, I think. This is actually before I started posting on TikTok. So during the evening shifts, I was the one that was in charge of closing up, right? Randomly one day, one of my coworkers, like, I'm on the main floor, right? That's like where I used to work, but I was in charge of the whole like store, right? So if there's any issues, like, they would call me, right? So one of my coworkers calls me one day, like with the work phone, and she's like, I have something to tell you. I'm like, what? She's like, could you come upstairs? I'm like, okay. So I take up the escalators and I go upstairs, and she's like, there's a guy that always comes here, like on the second floor. Now, mind you, the second floor is like still the women's floor. Like, we have the women's, which is the first floor, women's second floor. The underground is the men's and the baby, whatever section, right? She's like, there was a man that always comes here and I think he's masturbating. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, he's in there right now. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean he's masturbating? She's like, he always comes to like the second floor, not the first floor specifically. He picks up women's clothes, right? Goes into the women's changing room with the clothes. And it's always like 1 or 2 pieces of clothing. And he just stands there and he just jerks himself off. And you know how they knew that he was doing that? It's because the H&M changing rooms, they have curtains, like the long curtains basically, right? Which are kind of see-through. Like, they're not really see-through, but they're white. So like you could kind of see like a shadow, right? You see the person moving around. They see a hand. I'm not even gonna do the gesture. They literally just see a hand going up and down and up and down. And they're literally standing in front of the changing room. That's their job, right? And they're like, is he? But then they're like, there's no way, right? So then they move on. Then the next day they're like, is he? This guy was coming back over and over and over again. I had no idea. I was on the first floor, living just my best life with my coworkers working. We had no idea there was a fucking sex offender on the second floor. So then the day that she tells me, I was like, there's no way. I'm like, what? Like, you're lying. What do you mean there's a guy masturbating? Like, what are you talking about, right? So I go upstairs and she's like, look. So I stand by the changing room and I look over. Guys, 100% this man... This man, he wasn't even hiding it. That's the part that kills me. Like, he wasn't even hiding it. He was just straight up just doing it right there. And you see the clothes that are hanging because you see the shadow. And then once he's done, he would just come out with the clothes You know how nasty that is? This is why I always tell people you should wash your clothes when you get them from clothing stores. You never know. You never know what's happening to these clothes. He was holding them. He was always holding these clothes. I don't know what he was he imagining somebody? What a pervert. Oh my God. But anyways, my coworker tells me, I come upstairs, I see this, and I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And she's like, and she tells me, what should we do? And I'm like, we should call security. Pervert? What do you mean? What should we do? Like, we need to kick him out, right? So then, because we had security that worked, we worked in like this busy shopping street. There was like a bunch of stores. So like they were in charge. Like if there was an issue, we could call them, right? So we called the security guy. And then when the security guy comes, he tells me, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, there's a guy that's like jerking off. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he comes to H&M. He's been here many times and he like masturbates and he just... I'm never gonna forget, the security just looked at me. He looked so uncomfortable. I think he was like this Norwegian guy, like this young Norwegian guy. He was literally just doing, he was like, what? He just looked so uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, my coworkers tell me that he's been here many times. And he's like, where is he? We're like, I think he's still there, right? Security goes up and into the changing room. The guy is gone. Literally, he's gone. The moment between like when I left, came downstairs to call, and they were busy with customers, he escaped, right? I don't even know if I think he just left the store. I don't even think he escaped. Like he just walked out because he didn't know we were suspecting him, right? The security guard then tells us, he's like, this is crazy. He's like, are you guys okay? We're like, yeah, we're fine. Like, we're like, yeah, we're fine. It's just a pervert is here. So then he says, does he come here often? We're like, yeah, he comes here often. So he's like, next time just call me and we're gonna kick him out, right? And I think he actually did come back, but I wasn't at work that one time, so they ended up calling security and he never came back because I think security spoke to him and told him, you need to stop masturbating. What? Freak? The crazy thing is, I remember his face. Like if I saw him right now in the streets, I would recognize him, right? Because the moment she told me, I was like, I knew that man because I'd seen him many, many times, right? So if I ever see that man, and this Oslo is very small, if I ever bump into that man, or if you're watching this, you perverts, I know who you are. I think that was like the funniest story that I've ever had that's happened at H&M. It was like dark, but like in a funny way, because it was like whatever, like he was just like pervert, right? I remember this one time, the craziest one that I had was like this lady called me a monkey. I think I told the story on TikTok. This was the craziest fucking story. Like I remember it was like 2 p.m, right? This is 2 p.m. is usually like an hour before we finished our shifts at work. And so like this is like when everything, like people, was like rush hour, customers were coming in. There was a lot happening at that time. I was working my regular morning shift. It's 2 p.m. Like I have like an hour left. I'm really excited. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be done. There's long lines at the cash register, right? So like it's me, my coworker, there's like 4 of us, like we occupy all of them, right? Lines, people coming in. This random lady comes up to me and she's like, she wants to buy something, right? I scan the item and I'm like, she's like, oh, this is on sale. And I'm like, it's not on sale, because you know what she did? She basically did the thing that a lot of stupid customers do, where like they take like the sale like tag and then they put it on like the original one, but it's not on sale. I'm like, you're dumb. You're dumb. You're like 80. Like, actually, no, she was not 80. She was like 50. I'm like, you're like a 50-year-old woman. Like, what makes you think we've never experienced this before? I'm like, it's not on sale. We literally just got this item like 2 days ago, you fucking thief. But obviously I didn't say that, right? So I was like, this is not on sale. Sorry. And she's like, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. And now there's like a long line, right? And we're going back and forth, like the little passive aggressiveness. I'm like, no, it's not. Then she tells me, she's like, why don't you go check? I'm like, okay, right? So I'm like, let me just get this like over with, right? So I walk away and I go to check, and it's this is so fucking hilarious. To this day, I remember the way this happened like vividly, right? I walk away because you had to like go to a corner, and I went and I picked up the other item that was like the same as the other one, and I was coming back to show her like, see, it's not on sale, right? As I'm walking up to like the cash registers, right, I see a bit of like a commotion, and I'm thinking, I wonder what's going on, right? In my head I'm thinking, ooh, drama, like, right? Having no idea that the drama is me. I am the drama. So I walk up. As I'm walking up, we had like these little steps. As I'm walking up the steps to the cash register, I see this like lady, this like, I think she was like an Australian lady. She looks back at me and she goes, she called you a monkey. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, I literally look back. I'm like, oh, me? She's like, yeah. And then everybody looks at me. Now it's like my coworkers, the customers, guys, when I tell you, it was like there was 4 lines, right? That's how many customers there were. So many people around. The lady, the Australian lady, I'm pretty sure she was Australian because she had an Australian accent. The Australian lady, the one who allegedly called me a monkey, the customers, everybody looks at me, and my coworkers, right? And I'm like, what? And then the lady who called me a monkey is like, no, I didn't. I never said that. I never said that. And she literally started saying, I would never say that. Why would I call somebody a monkey? And the other lady, now for context, right? I'm in like the middle cash register, which is like the main one, right? The lady who called me a monkey is standing there. Beside her is the Australian lady, and it's my coworker who's helping her, right? The other side is my other coworker, right? Now I'm like, I get back to the cash register and I'm like looking back and forth between them. The lady who called me a monkey is literally saying, I never called you a monkey. The other one is like lecturing her. She's literally saying, this is not okay. This is unacceptable. She's at this point, she's fucking Martin Luther King. Like, she's giving a speech and I'm just like, what is happening? I'm looking at my coworkers, and then my coworker's like, we need to call security. We need to get this lady out. I'm like, I was so, guys, for me, it was just the embarrassment. Okay, I don't like to be embarrassed. Call me a monkey, but call me a monkey in private. Why call me a monkey in front of everybody, right? Now everybody's like pitying me. Everybody's looking at me. I don't like to be embarrassed. Don't embarrass me, okay? So then now my coworker is like calling security. It's like a whole commotion. Like, we had to calm down the Australian lady. She was like this white lady. She's literally screaming in English. That's like the part that kills me, because everybody's like Norwegian. Norwegian people are very like awkward. The lady who called me a monkey, by the way, she also spoke English, because I think she was like an immigrant, whatever. She was like a white European, maybe Eastern European. That's the vibe she was giving me, right? At this point, like, the commotion is only getting more. And then like the monkey lady had this other lady with her. The other lady, I think, kind of sensed that she was like, okay, we fucked up big time. She's like, let's just go, right? She's telling the lady, let's go. The lady's looking back at me saying like, I'm sorry, I would never she's literally saying like, I would never call you a monkey. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I wasn't there. Like, what do you mean? Like, why, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, why are you telling me this? I'm like, you already called me a monkey. Either stand on it or just say sorry. Like, why are you gaslighting everybody? Apparently everybody heard her as well. I'm like, what's the point? Like, literally, what is the logic behind that, right? Anyway, so I wasn't even saying anything. I was just looking at her and I was like, I think you should leave. I was like, I think you should actually just go. And she was like, just so you know, I would never do that. I would never call anybody a monkey. She's like looking around, looking all sad, and everybody's just looking at her, and the Australian lady, and everyone is like, you need to leave. Like, literally, guys, it was exactly like that scene. It was like, you know, the guy with like the breaking hat that was like, he said the N-word and he screamed the N-word, and everyone was like, ah! no, wait. No, not that one. Remember the other one? The one where it was like, there was a group of people, like that meme, and then somebody said something about like Mexicans, and then somebody was like, ah, you need to leave. It was giving exactly that vibe. And then as soon as she walked away, the Australian lady turns like back to me and she's like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this is happening in like I think it was like 2022 or something. This is unacceptable behavior. This is so horrible. And I'm like, yeah, like, I understand, because now she's telling me this in front of everybody. Everybody's still looking at me. Like, I don't like attention on me. I don't like pity. I really don't like pity, right? And everybody's like acting awkward. So I was like, thank you so much. Like, I think I asked her for her name. I forgot. I don't remember her name. And I was like, thank you so much for like standing up, which actually, looking back, very, very nice of her. Like, she stood on business, right? She stood up for me, and I appreciate that. I really do. It's just crazy that like that lady thought that she could call me a monkey, and then this random Australian lady was right next to her and said, no, not on my watch. Anyways, so that happened, and I remember like that wasn't even the end of it, right? I think I was so embarrassed. I literally started crying, guys. I started crying that day, but not because of like the monkey comment, because of the embarrassment. Like, that's literally that's what the fuck? Do you guys hear that? I'm just gonna wait for them to pass, because what the hell was that? Anyway, so then I was so embarrassed because of like what happened, and everybody was staring at me, and it was like rush hour. I was just like, oh my god, this is horrible. So I literally started tearing up. I'm like, my coworker was like, I'm so sorry, like, racism is not okay. I'm like, racism? I'm like, I don't care about that. I know racist people exist, just don't embarrass me. So then I go home. I remember like after work, I called one of my friends and I told her what happened, and we were just laughing. It was just so funny. Then the next day I was working, right? I think this was on a Friday. The next day was a Saturday, and I was working a morning shift, right? We opened the stores at 10 a.m. So I get to the store earlier, and I did everything. I open up the store. Literally, as soon as we open up the store, the first customer walks in. I'm on the cash register. Guess who it is? It's the lady who called me the monkey. She sees me. She walks up to me. She looks at me, and I look at her, and I'm like, hi? I'm literally confused, and there's nobody else there because we just opened the store. My coworkers are like still opening up. It was just me, right? So I'm looking at her, and she's like, I just want to say I'm so sorry for calling you a monkey. It was unacceptable. And I'm like, thank you. She then goes on this long ass like lecture. It was like, I don't know what the fuck it was. She just starts like apologizing to me, and she literally like grabs my hand. She's like, I'm so sorry. Do you forgive me? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, what the hell is going on at this point? I'm like, what? Leave me alone, bro. I don't care that you call me a monkey. Just go away. Like, I'm like, why is this dragging on? I'm like, it's literally the next day and you're like back 10 a.m. to like terrorize me and remind me, like, just leave. She then starts crying, like, not even crying, but like tearing up. And she's like, I'm just not that kind of person. I just would never do that. I'm like, it's okay. I just looked at her. I'm like, it's okay. She's like, thank you. And she just walks into the store and just starts shopping. And then after she's done shopping, she comes to me to pay for her stuff. It just felt very sinister. But I didn't care enough, because I'm not gonna lie, she low-key looked like a crackhead. I was like, I don't care that a crackhead called me a monkey. I think that's like the top crazy customer experience I've ever had. The other ones are more like petty things. Like, I'm never gonna forget this one day, this girl came into the store, right? She looked like a pretty girl, like a pretty young girl, like she's giving baddie. She had like lip filler, dark hair, full face of makeup. And I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? She's a baddie, right? She walks in, comes up straight to me, like she buys a bunch of stuff, right? Comes up straight to me, right? She's paying for the stuff. I'm like scanning the items and I look up at her, and behind her, I see my old coworker that we worked together for years in that same store. And I'm like, oh my God, right? So I start talking to her. I'm like, I hadn't seen her in years. And so I start talking to her. I'm like, how are you doing? While I'm scanning the stuff, right? I'm scanning the stuff. The girl is just standing there. I could feel a shift in energy. For some reason, the more I talk to my coworker, I'm noticing the customer is starting to act up a bit. Like she's giving me like attitude. She's looking at me up and down. I'm like, what is going on, right? I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is weird, but I didn't care because I was talking to my old coworker. I'm like, I was ignoring her, right? Obviously, I was asking her questions like, do you need a bag? Then when my coworker leaves, right, because she paid for her stuff and then she left, and I was still scanning her items because she had a lot of stuff, right? She looks up at me and she goes, this is unacceptable. And I was like, what? I'm like, huh? She's like, this is very unprofessional for you to be talking to other people behind my back while I'm standing here and you're scanning my items. You didn't even look at me once. And I'm like, what? Oh, I was just talking to my old coworker. She used to work here. She goes, I don't care. This is rude. And she literally turns to my coworker on the other side who was also scanning items. And she's like, this is horrible behavior. She's like, you know what? I don't want any of this stuff. And she literally just dashes the stuff. She goes, I'm walking out. Me and my coworkers were like, what? We literally just look at each other. We're like, what the fuck is wrong with this psycho? The way it came out of nowhere. That's the part that I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, guys, I swear to God, it took me like 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. It was like maybe like a minute and a half. The conversation that I had with my coworker. That's how long it took. And you know what the funniest part was? When she said that, literally nobody said anything. We were just like, what? And she was waiting for like a reaction, but nobody gave the reaction. And she just looked around. I think she walked away like a little bit, looked back, expecting me to say something. But I was just, this is literally me. I was like, girl, nobody cares. Walks away with like her heels clicking and clacking. And I'm like, oh my God, drama queen. But another thing about that girl, I remember her face. If I ever see you in the streets of Oslo, just know you have an enemy. Yeah, I remember you. I'm petty. Because the way you try to embarrass me in front of everybody, who do you think you are, the main character? That's the thing about me. If you do me wrong, I will remember you forever. Because I never had customers acting like that. You were so crazy. Later on, when me and my coworker were finished scanning the items, my coworker came up to me and she was like, what the fuck was that? I was like, I don't know. She was like, was she crazy? I'm like, I think so. But that was more like a funny one. But I'm going to tell you guys, like, the funniest one that I've had so far. It was actually not funny. It was like very sad. Not for me, but for my coworker. So basically, we had this rule at H&M. If you buy cosmetics, you're not allowed to return them. Like, you can't, like, especially if it's like foundation, lip gloss, basically any cosmetics, you're not allowed to return them. Once you buy it, you buy it. So like, you gotta make sure that you get the right colors, okay? You can't return them. This is like 2019, right? This lady buys foundation. I'm never gonna forget. I think it was the Ordinary foundation. I think it was the Ordinary foundation. I don't know if the Ordinary foundation was it. I think back then it was either the Ordinary or like Max Factor or like Maybelline, something like that, right? She buys a foundation. I remember her. She bought it. She comes back the next day and she's like, hi, I want to return this. And I'm like, you can't return cosmetics. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it says right here on the receipt. It's been like that forever. Everybody knows. So you can't return cosmetics. She then tells me, can you call the manager? I'm like, oh, it's the evening time. We don't really have the manager right now. But I was like, but I can find like the person who's in charge of cosmetics because she works here. She's like, okay, could you call that person? And I'm like, okay. So then I go find my coworker who's in charge of the cosmetics. Her name was Lil. I remember her, like, she was such a vibe. Like, I miss her. She's very, very nice. I call her and I'm like, I have a customer that's annoying me. Could you just come tell them that, like, you're not allowed to return foundation? She's like, okay. So she comes back and stands beside me and she's like, I'm so sorry, but like, you can't return a foundation because, you know, it's cosmetics. Sorry, you can't even change it. Not gonna lie, this lady was not backing down. She was literally like, no, I have to change my foundation. My coworker's like, you can't. And she's like, but I have to. And I'm just standing there awkwardly, just seeing them back and forth. And there's other customers. Then she tells me, she's like, oh, fine. You know what? If I can't return the foundation, like, it is what it is. Like, can you give me like a pair of scissors? I want to cut off like something in my belt or something. I'm like, okay. Like, she seemed pretty normal. Like, she seemed like she kind of let it go. And I'm like, okay. My dumbass gives her a pair of scissors. Now, think about this, right? This was my customer, right, from the beginning. She annoyed me. I called my coworker. My coworker had nothing to do with this. She literally just came, spoke to her, told her no. I gave her the pair of scissors, right? This lady gets the scissors, cuts open the foundation, and starts spraying it on my coworker. The poor lady who I called, she literally just starts spraying it. She was like, I can't return this? Then here, you can have it. She literally just starts pouring the foundation all over her hair, her face, her clothes. When I tell you, this lady was drenched in foundation. And she just smiles, gives me back the scissors, and walks away. I felt so bad for my coworker. Like, I remember I was just there. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, this is low-key, not my fault, but like, sorry. Yeah, that was like a crazy, crazy lady. But yeah, I have so many crazy stories from H&M. I worked there for like 6 years of my life. But that's it for today. Let me know if there's any other topics you guys want me to talk about. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.